Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. So excited to have you today. It's going to be an incredible time, an incredible episode, and I don't want to waste any time getting into introducing our guest. She's a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a dog mom. I forgot to add that. It's very important. An entrepreneur, a visionary, a leader, a servant heart, a servant leader as well, a sister in Christ. I'm genuinely so grateful for Instagram for this instance of getting to meet her and become friends. So please welcome a new kindred spirit of mine, Sarah Englade, to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Gosh, that was a great intro. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'll record it. And then whenever you go and meet someone that you're just like, I don't really want to tell you everything, just hit play and it'll just run through for you.
Oh God. Yeah. Send it to me. I love that.
Absolutely will. Absolutely will. So the next segment that we jump into, which I love, is getting the opportunity to kind of set the foundation for the audience and really let them know, like, how do we know each other? Because if you look on paper, we have literally, there's no way we would actually get to know each other except for one beautiful instance. So I love to share with the audience and pass on to my guest for you to share either a story of me or how we met. So that way, as we talk, we get to bring them into this really intimate conversation where they feel like they're just friends with us, sitting, enjoying a cup of coffee, tea, or at the gym working out.
Let's do it. I mean, you mentioned it. It's Instagram. So we actually have a mutual friend, Alicia Baldino.
Mm-hmm.
So that I know Alicia from, I'm part of a program called Arate Syndicate. And Alicia is also a member of Arate, and that's for entrepreneurs. And so I follow her. So she actually was on your podcast. So she was on your podcast and I saw it. I listened to the episode, but what made me click was seeing her. And I went to your Instagram and started to scroll and started to listen to, some of your guests. And commented on a guest that had a Massachusetts accent. So, and that's sort of what opened up the door for us to connect. It was literally me just saying, hey, I know that accent. That's from Haverhill, Massachusetts. And, the rest is actually history. I think it was like a month later, you and I were connecting and chatting and found out even more, like we have other things in common. You are also from the area that I grew up in. My parents live in Nashua, New Hampshire. You lived in Nashua, New Hampshire. It's like, It's so crazy how the world works. It's so much smaller than what people say it is, like everybody really does know somebody, from through another person. So thank you, Instagram. That's how we know each other.
Seriously. Well, and it's so beautiful because you had commented on that and I loved it because, when you're a creator and you're looking at your social media platforms, you obviously want, like, a lot of people think that likes are really good. Sure. Okay. They're one of the metrics, but it's really about engagement. It's about people commenting and just getting excited about what they're hearing. And so when you commented at first, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so great. She really listened. Like, I was super pumped. And then something, honestly, like, our friend that now we're mutual friends with, Crystal, who was like the guest that you had commented on, she was like, oh my gosh, wait, this girl seems so cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I know, wait, she's so cool. And I was in this season, and you and I have talked about it offline, of like just going in the flow and being in a moment where you're coming from a place of rest and you're pursuing things as they come and intentionally as well. And I remember being like, I'm going to reach out to her. She seems so cool. She may or may not have the time for me, but like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, put it out there. And I did. I messaged you and I said, I'd love to chat, connect. And it was so effortless. And I don't know if anybody needs to hear that today. I'm just like, if you feel called, convicted, your gut tells you to do something, do it, because there's a beautiful time release that happens when you're doing things as they should. And I think that truly, like, our meeting is an example I use often to people when I talk about being in flow. And I'm like, when it's meant to happen and you're in flow, the way that literally you responded, yes, I said, okay, we got a date. And then, guys, we ended up talking for 90 minutes. It wasn't even the plan.
Yeah, it was a good conversation.
Yeah. It was an incredible conversation.
Yeah, you're a great example of like how not to be scared to reach out to someone that you feel compelled to reach out to. That's how networking works. A lot of people are scared to do that outreach for them. I'm in sales, so I'm constantly having to do outreach. But because I'm in sales, I am actually that person too that's a little bit skeptical as well. But your message was so it was so kind and it was so warm. There was no reason to not respond to you. And of course, I'd already seen your show. So I'm like, I see guests that I know, one that now we're mutual friends with now.
Yeah.
So, I kind of grew a new friendship because of our mutual connection. So it's a wild road, but yeah, you're a perfect example of how it does work, how it's supposed to work if you reach out to a stranger.
Yeah. And using it as a tool too. Like I feel very much that like you and I both know it what we do and just our age bracket and what we're seeing in society. It's really easy to use Instagram as an end all be all for everything and you're doom scrolling and you're getting caught up in it. But when you really leverage it as a way to connect and, you're not in the same state that I am at all. There's literally no other way we would have met each other. And I just think that's just a testament to your point of the courage, but also of using social media as a tool and not necessarily like getting wrapped up in it and setting those boundaries and knowing where it lives in your life. And just creating that creating less distance, right, from being distanced in space and time and all the things. And so, yeah, I think, and again, we just had so many things in common. And I was like, will you be on my show? And you were like,
yes. Yeah.
It was
Yeah, that was
amazing.
awesome. Yeah, I loved how it worked out.
So cool. And it's one of those things for anybody listening, like I'm fangirling Sarah because I'm like, oh my gosh, like if you don't know anything about Ari's, say the Ed Milet programming again. How do you say it?
Arate Syndicate.
Okay. So like that's like life goals for me. I've been Ed Milet follower for a long time. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, Sarah is so cool. She's in this program and she's like such a boss. And so I'm over here like cheesing and geeking out because I love so much about you. And what's super cool, you guys, is when you're on the outside and you look at someone's content, it's easy to be like, oh, well, maybe not. Like she could be out of my league. But getting to talk with you and getting to experience, like we're literally two girls on a mission fighting for what we believe is right and doing it so that other people can. Literally, that's what we're doing. And when I pull back all of the content, all the things, I was like, okay, like if Sarah and I lived in the same city, yeah, we'd be like co-working together and hanging out. Yeah, absolutely.
Probably.
So it was just super cool, but also gets me excited too of like, of putting myself out there to meet people that are at the place that I'm at. And you and I talked about that a lot. And so again, I don't know who else needs to hear that of like, who are the individuals that maybe you're feeling, I don't know, they seem to insert whatever your insecurity or fear is, but maybe those are the exact people that you're meant to go and reach for because that's where you're rising to. That's who you need to be surrounded by.
Yep.
In order to get to the next level and grow.
Yeah. I mean, growth really is one of those things that it takes kind of like we talk about like the diet, right? What like who you hang out with, what you consume, what you read, what you listen to, what you watch, like all of that matters. And so for me, and again, we talked about this offline, like as you start growing and me, I'm an entrepreneur. So as I'm growing into my space and trying to, expand my company and grow myself, you have to surround yourself with people that, are doing what you're doing and that maybe they're doing it better so that you can learn from them. You can't constantly surround yourself with people you've outgrown because then you won't grow. So yeah.
I love that. And thank you for being that person for me of like, all right, I'm going to be Sarah. Like, I'm going to have this awesome, like, I know that your wall is not like, it's just a wall with however, but like, I'm going to have my own space and just all the things that you're doing, which I love. And one of the through lines that I've noticed about you, and I know that there are a lot of people that you do business with that have definitely known that as well, is just your effervescence and joy and kindness that radiates from you. And I think that in the field that you're in of recruitment, it is tough. It's tough to be kind and be focused on just doing it for the right reasons because it can get really, really grinding on your emotions. And so I just would love for the audience to know, like, where did you learn to be kind? Like, where did that come from? Like how were you raised that way? Like, was there someone in particular that modeled that for you?
So the kindness piece, if you talk to my mom will say Sarah was always kind. She was like, she always refers to me as like the cuddler and like the sweet one. I have two sisters and, she always explains little Sarah like that. But, I think like my early childhood, I was obsessed with my great grandmother who, lived to be 95. And I was sort of just obsessed with her. I thought that she was the most like beautiful person I've ever met, the most loving, sweet, kind woman. Like she was really like my best friend. And what's crazy is I think about her all the time. And she passed away when I was 18. And it was really, really hard on me. It took me a long time to actually get over it. But I think about her every single day. And I think about, I don't know, just everything that she taught me, like patience and, I don't know, just doing the right thing. And she also was a heavy influence on me because she was so Catholic. So she was very religious, and being around her, I always wanted to be good. So I don't know. I think about her a lot when I think about where did I find this piece of me, and I think it probably had to do with a lot with being around her so much. I mean, she was like my second mom.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
I love getting to hear. I had a very special Nana myself, and I love that we have those grandparents or aunts and uncles that just have such a sentimental place in our heart for,
Mhm.
maybe it's not about the trips or the whatever, but it's the moments that you spend with them and the quality time. I can imagine like growing up in New England and just like going over to her house and baking cookies or whatever her thing was, right? Going to mass and then coming back and having something or, it doesn't, but again, like those emotions being connected to the time that you spent with
Yeah.
her, which obviously had an influence on you because you think about
Big
her all
time.
the time.
Literally, I think about her all the time. It's wild like how people can leave an impression because now when I think about I'm about to be 40 and she passed away when I was 18, and I think about my relationship with her when I was growing up, and I'll be honest with you, she was kind of a woman of very few words. Like she really was. She said some very inspirational things to me, growing up, but she didn't really have to say much. It was just like being around her. And she was very well respected. Like my grandmother was awesome. Like she sang in the church choir. She actually played piano at like the Haverhill Christmas parade. She was always like with the Italian serenaders, I guess that's what they were called, but she would play piano with them and she always came out before Santa. So we would wait for her and we'd be like, that's Meme. Like we were so excited about her. She was just doing things that were so cool when I was a kid seeing her, and everyone loved her. So I don't know. I think that there was a big piece of, wanting that too, where people really looked, to me to be that person, but she really was like my idol for sure. Yeah.
I love that. Well, and we've talked offline of just kind of how you've grown into adulthood and taking some big steps to put your dreams and your goals in front of you. And I feel like whether or not you knew it, I think that your meme was an action oriented woman. She was, let your walk talk louder than your talk. And
Yeah.
even moving to Houston and making this life change, all the things you did, in your 20s and that's very much, it seems like, who she would have been. She's like, all right, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And then the reliability and the community that came around her and the people that were like, oh, well, she says what she means. Okay. Well, yeah, we can get down with that. And she
Yeah.
became someone that was a pillar in the community. And I very much think that you've become that and you've embodied those things because you saw not only how to create a life with them, but you saw how people felt about her as a
Mhm.
reaction, right? As a result, as, just experiencing her personality, her commitment to her faith, her commitment to the community, her commitment to, well, I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. And I think that's become a through line in all that you have created in the past decade is regardless of what has knocked you down or what is keeping you, it's doing what you say you're going to do long after
Yeah.
the feeling of doing it is
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah,
And
you're
that's from
right.
your meme. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
that's
right.
super cool.
Yeah,
What
I
would
love
you
that.
say has been really important, like, as kindness relates to your business? And you could share some personal life too, but
Mhm.
how has that been really important to you in creating a culture with your brand, with your company, with your clients? Like, kindness as a whole, how has that played a part?
So I own a recruiting company. So I'm in the business of people. So people are very vulnerable when they come to me if they're looking for a job, and I'm there to help, companies solve a problem, which is usually staffing, but dealing with people, relationships are number one. So my industry is kind of a difficult industry. It has a terrible reputation of being icky, and people think that recruiters, we're in sales, so it's a sales job. So a lot of people don't like salespeople because they always feel like they're literally being sold. Um, when I started my company, though, I started it and for really to have a safe place for Sarah. I had worked for two very large companies and I was very scripted in how I did recruiting. The company kind of laid out what we were supposed to say, how we were supposed to sound, and how we were supposed to do things. And it never really aligned with me. We never listened to what the candidate, the job seeker wanted. It was more about just placing them to get paid. So for me, when I started Monarch, in 2020, I started it to put humanity back into hiring. And I did that for me, and I wanted to do it for others and to reinvent the industry here in Houston, Texas. And so for me, kindness is always something that's important because people will never forget how you made them feel, ever. So for me, you have to, in any recruiter, anyone in sales, just maybe anyone in business, once you start hurting people, it's going to hurt you long term. People will never, ever let it go. So if you're looking to run a company, a successful company, and grow that company, reputation's everything. And the way you treat people is the number one thing. So for us, I never lose sight of it. We talked about holding ourselves to a high standard. I hold myself to a very high standard with this. Nobody feels pressured. I will not guilt people into taking roles for me at all. It's pointless. It's their career. It's a big decision that they have to make. So with that, I think I'm empathetic with them. I'm understanding. And I really do believe like it's meant to be. It's either going to happen or it's not, but there's no pressure either way. So that's my long-winded answer to just say kindness plays a part in my day all day.
It's
and
amazing.
what I do.
That's amazing. And I hope that whoever is listening that maybe has had, a bad experience with a recruiter or maybe is hesitant, it's like, okay, well, how do you step into those situations knowing that there is risk when you're going out there having somebody to represent you? But I hope that the people hearing your heart, hearing that what you're trying to do and what you have done, that there are people out there like you, and just to be diligent about that process of even if you are looking for a recruiter or you want to hire someone to represent your brand and go and seek out employees for you, knowing that like do your homework, find the people that are about it for the same reasons that you are, the Sarahs of the world, right? That are willing to be kind and do the right thing. And I just had a coffee appointment this morning and we were talking about business as it relates to just, you get to a point where if you force something, right? Like if you were to force a position because you wanted to get paid, at the end of the day, regardless of whether it fits, which probably it won't fit, right? Something will happen. It ends up hurting you anyways. It's a bad review. They never want to work with you again. And even as it relates to business with me, it's like, I could have forced a lot of clients over the past 3 years. But what that would have done for me is probably, well, I know it would have done nothing. Because at the end of the day, even if we would have gotten bed together and it would have been great at first, if something bad would have happened or didn't go well, they would have blamed me. They would have put that on me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it is a reflection of you. So it's like almost like that, you just being an advocate for being kind and saying, hey, this is up to you. This opportunity is here. If you don't want it, that's okay. Like we'll continue moving forward. It's such a breath of fresh air, but it's also you protecting your future self. And I don't know if you feel this way because maybe we've talked about this before, but being kind is like a muscle. The more you use it in business and in life, it's really hard to not. Like it's harder for me to be mean to somebody than it is for me to just genuinely care and show up for them and to say, wow, like, to give kind words. And I don't know if you feel that way as well, but for me, I it's a muscle, man.
It is. I mean, you have to choose kindness. I think sometimes it's easier for people to say exactly what is on their mind and what they're thinking, which can be ugly thoughts. And it's a defense mechanism. It's because you just feel like you have to say it. It's almost like it's the easier route to take is to just give a jab, especially if it's like at the tip of your tongue. So you have to choose kindness. And it is a muscle that you have to exercise. And when you're a business owner, you do have to deal with a lot of BS. And if you don't grow thick skin and learn to be kind, you're never going to make it. Like owning your own company is so hard. It's so hard. And then the company that I own, being that it's in the relationship of people and that's so serious. I mean, if you can't just be kind and nice and, empathetic, I mean, gosh, get out of the business. So yeah, it is a muscle. I have to choose it sometimes too. I'm not perfect. There's some times where, I really feel like I could just not be kind. But one of our core values is to never make a major decision in a valley. So it's like those moments I literally take a walk because
Wow. Yeah.
you have to choose, you have to choose your hard. And sometimes that hard is being kind.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's incredible because, I mean, even just this week, I've experienced a lot of spiritual warfare as it relates to emotions and things that, like, not me being in an emotional state, but things will happen to me and my emotions flare up. And it is so much work to just be like, push it down, to talk myself out of maybe reacting or responding from that valley, like you talk about, or responding from that emotional state. What does it take? It's knowing yourself and knowing that being kind is a choice, and you believe in the long game. You believe in what's going to happen as a result of doing that work. And for me and my faith, it's being obedient and making sure that people feel love and feel light when they're around me. And I, we're a broken world. We're broken people. We're not always going to feel joy. Like, that's not the point. But the point is to put in those roadblocks, to put in those boundaries, to put in the tools that you need. Like you said, go for a walk. Or if you know that this person in your life habitually keeps triggering an emotional space for you, probably time to reevaluate this
Yeah,
person.
create distance. Yeah. You have to. That's what's so hard about life, I think, sometimes too, because those people that are creating that negative energy to exist in you, sometimes they're our family. They're people that we would consider to be the closest people to us. But it's like the same thing where advice that had been given to me over the years from other really successful people, they would say, you have to marry well, because who you're around, in that sort of like an intimate setting, it plays such a big part in it. And, honestly too, like if you're around somebody that is constantly dimming your light or constantly kind of minimizing your success because they never were able to do it, that's where it comes from a lot of people where they are negative. If they're picking at you, it's because they wish they would have done these things and they're jealous. And so their way of dealing with it is kind of minimizing your success to make them feel bigger. Those people really do. You have to see it for what it is, and you do have to create distance, which will create a boundary, which you need for yourself to kind of protect your own energy and how you want other people to perceive you. Toxicity can be very, toxic. You can literally, be kind of attracted to that for certain personalities. And I certainly have been, guilty of, misery likes company, being that person
Right.
too that can be a little bit toxic. So having to learn from old Sarah to be able to get here, it's a journey, but you have to go through it. I mean, there's no point in being toxic when you can literally be kind and go to bed and have nothing floating in your brain.
Well, and that's literally, Sarah, I say that all the time. I literally say, if I can put my head on the pillow at the end of the day and know I did the right thing, regardless of how somebody perceives it, regardless of how it benefits me, regardless of what's going to come after, there's a sense of peace in doing the
Mhm.
right thing. And it doesn't even, I don't even think there's an exact equation, because there's so many different examples of that. But you're right. Like, it is a sense of peace that you have to find. And you said, I'm reading Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima, and I cannot recommend it enough. And there's a section I just finished reading yesterday, just talking about, circle and cage and who you're surrounding yourself with and the 2 degrees of circle. And I often say that our family and people love us the most, their advice is filled with love and coated with fear.
Yeah.
Because they genuinely care. There is no question.
Mhm.
Nobody is questioning your family or your friends, but be mindful of the advice, because if it is genuinely not for you, it's for their fear or their insecurities or their doubt. And again, it doesn't change that it's filled with love. We respect and we honor that. But that's where you cut it off and you say, hey, thank you so much. I'm grateful for you. And I think a lot of people fall into, taking that advice from people. I have, a lot of different people in my life that will come and seek me for advice. And as I have stepped into my faith more and really, really, really want to honor God in everything that I do, I'm mindful of, even for other friends, like, is the advice I'm giving them, is it filled with fear or doubt or questioning? Or do I even need to give advice? Can I just guide that? Can I ask them some questions that may lead them to their own intuition, their own knowing, for me, to the Holy Spirit that's within them? Because that might just be enough, right? Instead of saying, oh, hey, you shouldn't do that. And I'm in a season again, and I know you have felt this as well in your own life, of like, you go through these ebbs and flows where family and friends, like, they're their peak level, like they're like, oh, so you're still doing the same thing. You're not where you want to be, but you definitely could use more financial help and all these things go on. Well, let me tell you what you should do. And I think you should get a job and all this. And then you're like, right? Because that valley and those hills come back, where their opinions, because they love you, they're going to share those things. But the reality is it is not necessarily going to serve you to act on that advice.
Yeah, 100%. I think about it too. It's like, I've had to have kind of arguments with my own husband, even, when I'm venting about work. I mean, I own a company. He doesn't own my company. And so like even with him, sometimes he'll give me business advice. And what I can always share with everybody is this, like, don't take business advice from someone that doesn't own or run a business. They don't know.
Amen.
They don't know. So as soon as you can start like recognizing that, and that really bothered my husband too, because I didn't ask for advice. I was literally asking more for support, but he had to chime in. And when I had said to him, I go, I would never take business advice from you ever. You've never ran a business. And that really kind of hit him hard. And he was slightly offended in it until he thought about it. He's like, you're right. Cause I'd said, I'm like, I wouldn't take accounting advice from someone who wasn't an accountant or legal advice from someone who wasn't an attorney. Like, if you can kind of really start to like understand that, when you're, talking to someone who's just giving you their 2 cents or whatever, I've actually really learned when people are venting to me, if I get an opportunity to ask, do you want advice or do you want support?
Yeah.
That helps me too, because my advice that I give, I want it to be crystal clear advice without it being offended. And I want open ears. And sometimes people don't want advice. They really just want you to listen.
Yeah.
So it's paying attention to those cues too and just asking the question, do you want advice or do you want support? So you can figure out how to handle it.
And for that too, like, and I feel like we're both the same people. Like we see a problem. We're like, okay, here's the 12-step plan. Stand over a spreadsheet on how we're going to fix it. We're going to make it right and we're going to grow from it.
Yep.
And most people are not at that level that we're at, but also most people don't even want to necessarily fix it. They just want to complain about it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But you have to also know, and I'm reading in this part of the book, Worthy. So you guys are welcome for not even having to read it, but you should read it. And Jamie Kerlima hasn't yet sponsored the podcast, so maybe she will. It talks about like, when you are going out and seeking advice, go out and seek advice or praise or excitement from those that are going to reciprocate it back. And so what I tell people, and I've had to tell family, is like, I will sit and listen to an extent. But if you just want to come back to me and only complain over and over and over again, I love you, but I'm not the person for you, because I'm going to hear you. I'm going to listen. I'm going to console you. And then we're going to get to work. And so if you don't want that, then I'm not your girl. Just like there are people in my life that I'll go and tell exciting things about business or about my podcast, very targeted people who I know are going to give me the excitement that I want. And so it's just knowing different people's strengths in your life that can receive and give joy, excitement, praise, advice, tough love, and kind of identifying who those people are and knowing like, okay, Brittany's not going to be the person that's just going to sit and complain with me over and over and over again if I just want that. Like I love her, but she's not. And I'm not. And I've had to actually set boundaries on my end to be like, please don't come to me and just want to complain, because my heart can't handle it. I want to help people. And when you invite me into your problems in that way, like, and you come back and you just want to complain, I have to protect my own heart because I want to serve you. I want to love you. I want to do well by you. And I can't do that if we're just going to complain about it and sit in the same space over for the course of a year. And that's dramatic, but to a point,
But I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, I'm solutions driven. So like, being that I am responsible for the success of this company and like I'm obsessed with it and I work my tail off, I have to be super solutions driven. So I don't sit in failures. I don't complain. I might vent, but I'm not complaining. Like I learned from a lot of different things that happened that didn't happen the way I wanted them to happen. That's how you kind of grow. I think there's a lot of people, I have them in my family too, like they're kind of like the quarterback in high school. Like they did one cool thing and now they're stuck there and it's been like 40 years. And they just talk about the past or they complain about all their, shortcomings, that victim mentality. I have zero room for that. I just don't. Like in so many ways, I guess I could probably be a victim too, but I'm not. Like we all have choices. And if you don't like something in your life, change it. Like it really is sometimes that easy. Going through change is hard, but choosing to level up and to be better and to surround yourself with strong-minded people that you idolize and want to be like, that's a choice. And that will help change a lot of things that are going wrong in your life, is really just trying to button it up. So again, like I have zero room for it. My boundaries are firm. I had to learn boundaries the last few years, but also forming boundaries for yourself. It really does help you to mature and it helps you to really get things done the way that you
love
want
them
them
well too. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like being able to understand that this particular person in your life this is the capacity you have for them and you can do it really well versus trying to extend yourself beyond what you can give because they want something different than you could offer. And there's power in that. Like you said, there's strength in that. And also, not for nothing, but like maybe there's somebody else in their life that's meant to step up and you're not it. And if we go and try to create ourselves a burrow in someone's life, we actually can be forcing something that was never meant to be ours, a place that we were never meant to exist. And you're going to feel that resistance. So I don't know if anybody's listening and they have tried to help a friend or they're trying to help a family member and all you're feeling is resistance in your life. You should really be asking yourself, are you meant to be there? Because maybe you put yourself there on your own free will, but that was never the plan. And there's somebody else waiting to actually do the work. And you took that spot. You took that place, which it's not effective.
That's great stuff what you just said.
But
well, that's the thing. It's like, you have to kind of sometimes look at a situation and just be like, okay, so is this really where I want to be putting a lot of my energy into this anymore? There's no change happening. And so you can't force things for people. You're only in control of yourself. If you don't align with something that somebody's doing or the words coming out of their mouth, how they think, how they view life, that's cool. Let them be like that. You just have to keep it moving and have that boundary. And there's a way to have boundaries without being disrespectful. So, people always want to know where you stand with them. And when you have a boundary, people should know. They know where you stand. So I don't know, again, like I have them in my family and, I love my family, but certain people in my family, they just know I can't deal. If you're going to complain, come on, like complain to somebody else. Like we're just trying to make things happen over here. I'm not trying to listen to all that. Yeah.
Oh, please. Yeah. Like that's what I'm just trying to put things happen over here. And I think too, there's this humbling sense of self that, again, it can be that you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, and whatever that you do, you really have postured yourself to serve other people and love other people. So you see things, you allow yourself to experience other people's lives. And so when people in your life come to you, you have this really grounding sense of, this is what you're complaining about? Like this, like you have this awareness of like, there's a lot more people going through a lot harder things. And not that it's meant to diminish at all what this person in your life is going through, but it gives you perspective of not getting caught up in it, not getting like overwhelmed by the emotional despair that can naturally come because the enemy wants us to be there, like fear, anxiety, stress, anger. Those are all like emotions connected to the enemy. Joy, love, excitement, forgiveness, kindness. Those are all, emotions created by God that God wants for us. And so if we're leaning into those really heavy, darker things, we have to go through them. That's not what I'm saying. But if that's all that you're seeing and seeking, then it's just going to become your own narrative and it can be overwhelming and you won't be able to get out of it. And that, again, if you are a high performer, if you're someone that is out there creating within your professional, personal, spiritual space, you have to guard yourself because it can be like a wave that just hits you. And
I was given me and my sister were talking about this recently and we were talking about how I was basically sharing with her. I'm like, what you think is what you attract. It's proven. Like every time I think about, where I want to be with my company and how many orders I need to fill or how many this, how many that, I attract it. I really, really do. And, it's not like it just pops out of the sky and lands in my lap. It takes a lot of energy for, me to get these things to happen, but they happen. Yeah. And if you constantly are thinking bad about yourself or your failed relationships or you're not good enough or this or that, you will constantly attract those same kind of people to come in and out of your life. You will never, ever be able to get to the level of, being really comfortable with you. So that's the biggest thing. I'm a huge believer in it. I don't want to be surrounded by people with a scarcity mindset whatsoever. I want people to have like this abundant mindset. Of just really honestly believing in whatever is meant for you is going to happen and believing in really big things. Like if you're going to dream, you might as well dream really big. And so that's the biggest thing with me is like, again, I'm not perfect and I'm not saying that I'm the most optimistic, happy person every single day, but I choose to think those thoughts. And when I start thinking, or having anxiety and I start feeling like that disappointment or that discouragement come in, you really do have to tune it down. And you have to kind of revisit your vision. I guess. And when you revisit your vision for what you want your company to be or your life to be, that actually will set you, free from those thoughts because now you're back on a mission to make things happen. So I really think sometimes too, a lot of people, they don't remember why they got into it to begin with. Like, what is the vision? And I think for me, when I actually get in my own way, which happens once in a while, and I sit down, my vision's not changed. It's the same thing. I just forgot what it was.
Yeah.
I got too wrapped up in this or that. So it's just getting recentered. But
Love
yeah, if
that.
you're going to dream really, really big.
Love that. I love that. Like, keep your why in front of you. There's so many sayings that I keep in my head of like, your why should make you cry. Things that don't let the reasons why you got started keep you from the reasons why you do what you're doing. Like, there's so many things that we can keep in our head to just align with that, like you're saying. And again, dreaming big and even setting goals in those ways. It's like the higher, I always had clients that will be like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, if you set your goal to 500, then you're only going to reach 500. But if you set your goal to 1,000 and you only reach 750, that's higher than you originally would have set your goal of 500. And so are you creating space in your life for growth, for a person in your life romantically, for friendships, for relationships? And Sarah, just like you're saying, it's like you are creating an abundant mindset, and what you think about, you bring about. It's 1,000% true. Which again, in a space where you're an entrepreneur and a creator, and you truly are trying to set the bar. And when people think of recruiting, they think of your brand, they think of you. Like, it takes a lot of intentionality. It takes a
Yeah, it
lot
does.
of vision casting. And again, you're not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but if you don't create the vision, you don't create the why, then you're not creating space for it to even exist, period,
That's right.
regardless of how long that it takes.
That's right.
One of the things that I want to transition a little bit, because something that we have in common, and we talked about it offline the first time we met, was our faith. And I had said to you, I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently, probably in the past several months. And I talked about two types of business owners. There are business owners that that have a faith structure, whatever that may be, whatever denomination. They believe in a higher power. They believe in a source, and so that a lot of their decisions stem from that. And then there are people, there are business owners that don't. And what I witness more often than not is the business owners that don't tend to find idols. They find identities that are not meant to be carried, and they carry an immense amount of burden that we as humans were never meant to carry. And so things like self-sabotage, things like scarcity mindset, addictions, poor relationships, healthy, unhealthy habits, which then can relate to unhealthy relationships. And so what I find is the business owners that tend to have a faith, even if no matter where they are in that, and they believe in something higher, they tend to understand their limitations. They know how much they can do. And the stronger their faith is, and the more that they are giving to their higher power as it relates to business, the more freedom they find in their own self. And I see more sustainability. And not saying that people that don't believe don't have success. The key for me is sustainability. And it's also like quality of life and experience. So one of the things that we've talked about is faith. And I would love to know, as it relates to your story, like, where does God, like, where did you get to know him? Where you mentioned earlier about being Catholic, which we bonded on that as well. Like, I was baptized and raised Catholic for the first part of my life. But yeah, where did you learn about God, and where did that start for you in your life?
So I really thought about this question because, ever since I was little, like the first school I ever went to was called Noah's Ark. So, like that was my first school I
Drop
went
a hint
to.
without dropping it. Really?
Literally. And, I was in the Christmas play and I played Mary and I was really excited about that.
So
Like,
sweet.
I had no speaking lines. I remember my mom being like, all you're going to do is sit there and hold a baby. And I'm like, that's nice. Like, it sounded good to me. But I don't know how to answer it. I mean, I was raised in the church and, my mom and my dad, it's crazy when I think about it because my grandmother sang in the choir. When I was old enough to join the choir, me and my best friend that I'm still friends with to this day, we joined the choir, and we got kicked out of the choir because we would never pay attention. We never knew what page they were on. So we would just like move our lips and like pretend we knew it. And the person was like, y'all are terrible. So, but I was always either like doing Sunday school, and then I was part of like this youth group, and we would do like these school dances and all this stuff. So I always had faith. My church that I went to was up the street. I walked to church, and I walked to Sunday school. So it was a huge piece of my entire upbringing. My great grandmother, again, and my grandmother, her daughter, they were very involved in the church. We had priests that would go to my grandmother's house to give them communion. So I don't know. I don't think I remember a time when God wasn't in my life. So he's always been here. And I've always had a healthy fear of God. You know, since I was little, I wouldn't do things. I'd be like, God sees everything. I don't want God to see. I still act like that sometimes too. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. Somebody was like, that's the Catholic in you. But maybe, but I think it's a good thing. So I don't know. I think I was raised in it. I've always had God around. I talk to God all day. Think God's like the last person I talk to before I go to sleep. And he's like the first person I talk to when I wake up. So yeah, so
Have you
always.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Sarah Jessica Parker?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, so I just imagined the scene where her and Helen Hunt are goofing off in the choir. That's what I imagine is you. And she's like, ah, and then she's distracting her to get out of the choir. But like, that's what I imagine you and your best friend are doing.
We had a singing group growing up called TS, Terrific Singers, Tiffany and Sarah. We each have a tattoo of our CD cover. So we had like 2 number 1 hits in the neighborhood. That's what we would always say. We used to make up songs and sing.
I'm crying. This is so wholesome. I love it so much. It
literally was. Like, she was my girl. So we had like the song called Sitting on My Saddle and Looking Out My Window. It was just, and we like, we're still like this since we were 7 years old. And so, yeah, like being in the choir, that was probably how we were, because we were actually pop singers. But we were just trying to work our vocals, but we didn't like
really
the songs.
quite be a hymn. Yeah, it wasn't a hymnal you were really trying to get at. And,
no, we weren't. We couldn't get in with it. We're like, we couldn't get into like that sort of music, but we gave it a shot. And then we ultimately got kicked out because voice never came out. It was just moving lips.
It's also really funny the way that you just said that. In my mind, I'm like, Sarah's always been an entrepreneur and someone to seek opportunities. When she says at the age of 7, we were using the choir to leverage our voices and to practice. You guys, like that, if that's not who you were, it's like, okay, well, this is an opportunity. It may not work out for us, but let's try it. And literally they were like, this isn't it. And you're like, that's fine. We're going to make our own CD and our own album. So we'll see you later. And if you need to know what CD or album is, please Google it. Because I'm not going to explain it on here. But like, that's so funny. And I feel like that is a testament to who you are. It's like, well, this is an opportunity. Let's try it out.
Let's give it a shot and let's see what happens. I know, you know what? I'm impressed, Brittany, that you even like Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Not a lot of people know that movie. That movie is a classic.
Not like a lot of people, Sarah. I'm just saying.
My sister was obsessed. So my older sister is obsessed with Sarah Jessica Parker. So she went through a phase where we had to see like every movie that Sarah Jessica Parker was in. And that was one of them that we each own a copy of it. Like we have a CD of it or DVD or whatever. Yeah. But literally, I'm so impressed. Like that movie is awesome. If anyone hasn't seen it, please watch it. It is so wholesome and so great.
It's so good. And it's also very like, it's a fun, cute Saturday night. You're hanging out with your girlfriends, hanging out with your partner, whatever it is, grab a pizza and just like watch Helen Hunt and SJP before they became Helen Hunt and SJP. Like they're so young and she's so... and the dancing is so good.
So good. It's so good. All of it is so good. I don't like, because honestly, like I wanted to be them when I was little. Like I wanted that life. They were just adventurous and they were doing things. They were doing cool, fun things behind their parents' backs and like, but they were dancing on television. Like, I don't know. The whole thing was just awesome. That movie is so great. I'm so impressed. Thank you for actually being a fan of it too. I'm like, yes, I have seen that. Just shocked that you have too. I didn't know a lot of people do that movie.
Oh gosh, no, I love it. And you know, it's funny because I've been really reflecting recently as like, you know, you watch some favorites. So I definitely have Girls Want to Have Fun on it as a DVD. And every time I find it streaming, it'll be one of those where I genuinely am like, do I want to watch it? Because you guys, it's one of those movies you can put on when you don't want to have like movies can definitely make you feel all sorts of things. So if you're just like, I don't want to have any sort of dramatic feelings, I just want to exist in wholesomeness and happy endings, that this is it. And I love that movie but I also have been reflecting a lot with different movies and how, like, why did I connect with it at such a young age? And you just talked about, like, SJP and Helen Hunt, and they're out there fighting. They're like literally trying to pursue their future as high schoolers. I was like,
Yeah.
no wonder I loved this. Like, because I wasn't, yes, the dancing is great, the messaging is great, but I'm like, these girls are going for it. I just watched Motocross again recently, and I was like, no wonder I love that movie from Disney Channel so much, because she's going out and doing things against the grain, and she's fighting for a future as a motocross racer. And then there was a woman CEO, and you don't realize it until you're watching these movies as adults, how much of an impact they can have on the undertone of your life, and how,
Yeah.
wow, okay, I love that I loved that movie because it was showing me how to fight for something and how to be okay with it, going against the norm, if you will, or whatever it was. But
I love that.
yeah, it's a great movie. You have to go tell your best friend after we're done here that, like,
I
I
will.
compared you guys to SJP and Helen Hunt.
I will.
And I love that you mentioned too about your faith. And I also baptized Catholic. I was an altar server for so long. I used to recite at the mass because I had done it for so often. And you're right, there was an element where, like, God was always there. And there got to be a point where I walked away from my faith in college. And I remember I went to a liberal arts college, and my grandmother, like, freaked out because she thought, like, this whole thing of me being liberal. And it was just really funny. I'm like, Nana, that's not at all what it means, but that's cute. And so as I have come back to my faith, God has always been there. And I'm seeing that more and more in retrospect, which I feel like you are as well. But there was an element of growing a intimate relationship with him, and getting to actually know Jesus and know God and know his heart for me, and have that, like, fatherly relationship. When did that start for you? How has that played out, probably even in your 20s and 30s?
So again, I feel like I lean into God a lot. And I feel like sometimes when I'm overwhelmed and really, really like going through it, there's been more, punches, in the face knocking me down, or there's been more obstacles. It's in those moments sometimes I forget to lean into God. It's kind of weird how that is. Like when everything's going great, I'm like, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. But when things, you know, sometimes go bad for me, I forget. And I've really actually leaned more into that more like than ever this year, because this year's been tough in business. And actually, I think I shared this with you. A girlfriend of mine in the beginning of the year, when I was really going through some tough times with the business, she had said to me, sometimes I think God does these things to our lives, like adds, roadblocks and obstacles to see how long it takes for us to ask him for help. And when she said that, that really resonated with me, because I'm like, when is the last time I asked for help? Like, I always thank him, but I don't ask him for help. So it was a kind of in that moment that sort of shifted my mindset earlier this year. And I have also too, I've shifted the mindset, in business with God and my faith, because when things don't go the way that I planned them to go, instead of being like, God, I really needed that, like, oh, that sucks that it didn't go through, like, and getting down. Instead, I literally go, thank you, God, for making that not happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for making that
Amen.
deal not close.
Yeah.
Because to your point, things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And once you change your mindset and you're able to be like, thank you, I'm glad this didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. It wasn't the right way. You can really honestly you can move on quicker. So for me, I don't know. I feel like this year was very challenging, and I started to really lean into God more than ever with asking for more guidance or asking for more support. Um, and it really has made a huge impact with how I looked at this year and the success of this year, in particular. So I don't know. I guess he's always been around.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And I feel just in general, it's important. I've talked offline, is like, it can be a challenge to be a believer in business. And I think there's this new wave that's happening. We're a part of that wave where you don't need to be icky, follow God, have a relationship with Christ, and do business.
Yeah.
You can exist in all of those things. And so
Yeah, you can.
I was really excited for this conversation, because have I have gone through my own growth as, like, what do I think an evangelist is? And I have this, like, corner like image where all these pamphlets are getting like passed out, and it makes me really uncomfortable, right, to the same point. And what I've loved is I've been able to love people Britney style, right? Which is loving them the way that, that I believe Christ is loving them, and be kind and be joyful, and to bring God into my business and bring God into the conversations that I'm having with clients. And when I do talk about, this podcast, we've got 4 pillars, and one of them is the life that God calls you to. Not every interview I have with believers, and not everybody that's listening is a believer, but I take pride in talking about my faith as it relates to me and not projecting that onto somebody else. And I know that can be challenging in business because people have their own experiences with those that maybe haven't done that, or the moment they have the opportunity to talk, to somebody in faith, it feels like a vomit or a pressure moment.
That's kind of what it is. I have a very close friend, a mentor that I look up to a lot. And he doesn't believe in God. He believes in like a higher power. He believes in like the universe or energy, but he does not believe in God. And we don't talk about God, together. We just talk about a higher power. But he actually gets super turned off by anything that's posted on LinkedIn from somebody that is preaching and, kind of like shoving their faith and down everyone's throats, basically. And people that constantly do that, he'll like screenshot and send them to me. And I remember it was actually kind of recently. I was out and had to go out for a podcast out in Arizona, and we met up. He lives out there. And it was the first time he actually, and we've known each other 4 years, and it was the first time he's like, "You're religious." And I'm like, "Yes." Like, we never talked about it because you're so turned off by religion. And he's just like, I just feel like it's a cop out. A lot of people will constantly just shove that stuff down people's throats, and I just don't believe in it. I'm like, which is why we don't talk about it. But I think it opened up his eyes to be like, okay, like this is somebody who actually is religious, and I've known her 4 years, and she's never ever shoved her religion down my throat or posted about it or did anything to make me uncomfortable. It was like an aha moment for him. It really was. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think you can do it. You can be religious. You can have faith. That faith plays a part in how you operate your company. That faith, plays a part in how you operate your family, and still be somebody that's not ick. Loving God isn't anything that my sisters are not even close to as religious as I am. And, they talk about that. We're very open about it. And it kind of honestly makes me sort of sad for them, because I feel like I have so much peace and clarity because of my religion, but you can't force people to choose this road. I choose God to be in my life. That's my choice. He's always been in my life. And things happen in life that, you don't plan. I don't blame God for any of those things. I lean into God in those moments to just get like some I guess closure, or just some support in those moments. I think it's just having that, knowing that you're not alone. There's always God you can lean into. For me, that brings me lots of peace. So yeah, like my mom used to always say growing up, got to stay away from those Christian Bible beaters. Those ones are usually the worst people. And they tend to be like that sometimes, I guess. But
think there's just like, as someone that's experienced it for a minute in a lot of different things that I do, it's like, the word passion really comes from biblical times of being passionate means you're going to die for it. You are going to like fall for it. You're so passionate, you will literally fight the cause at a cost. And so when we use the word passion, I've really been kind of mindful of when I use the word passionate, like would I die for that thing? Like would I die for it? And I think it's easy for passionate to become an action word instead of something that you feel and act from, right? So it can become a adjective, especially as it relates to religion, especially relates to Christianity, of like, I'm passionate about Christ. And it's like, you could be passionate about Christ, but how would Christ love others, right? How would Christ show up? How would Christ do it? Because Christ is not asking us to be passionate the way that we want to be, or to vomit on people, or to project on people, or to stand on our, like maybe you feel called to do that, and that's fine. But, he's asking us to love like he did. And if you go back to where it talks about how he did that, it is loving people despite, right? Like you mentioned with your sisters, loving them regardless. I feel very, I love the church that I go to, but I don't serve in my church. And it's not because I don't believe you should serve. It's because I believe the work that I'm doing is with the lost, the men and
Mhm.
women who don't know Christ, who don't know love, who don't know peace. And it may not be religion as a whole. They may just not know love, right? And as a follower of Christ, just be love, just show kindness, just exist, just do the next right thing. That's all that is. And in business, for you, it's like modeling how to be kind to people because it's the right thing to do. And because, sending an extra thoughtful care package to a client or to someone who just got their job is because that's how you would want to feel,
Yeah.
regardless of whatever they're experiencing, whatever their religion is. And I love that you share that about your mentor because, you know, m- I was very insecure about being a believer at first because I was passionate to a point, but I also was just like, why wouldn't you want to feel this way? Right. But then I also knew, okay, I'm in business and what's that really mean to be in business, to be a woman in business and also be a believer? And the more that I just stuck to my guns of like, this is what I believe. I respect whatever you want to believe. Cause to be honest, I don't have time. I don't have time to care more about your beliefs than I do about my beliefs
Mhm.
and let people exist in that space. The more compliments people started paying me, like your mentor did, of like, wait, thank you so much. Like, I feel really seen by you without feeling like you're sharing more or that
Yeah.
you're projecting that onto me. And that's powerful.
It is. It is. And, with business too, like, we're not supposed to talk about things in business or things, in religion and whatever else we're not, supposed to talk about. It's taboo. But the way that I sort of bring about like my own beliefs is we create tons of content for the company. And, for Easter, we don't put up an Easter bunny. We put up the crucifix. Like we want people to know like this is, we are a Catholic Christian based company. Like that is who we are to the core. And so we do it kind of like in the subtle ways, but
Yeah.
people pick up on that. They see right away it's not a basket full of candy that we're posting about. We're not. We're posting that, God is risen. So it's like different things like that is how you can show people that you are practicing your faith, but I don't necessarily think that you need to speak on it or anything like that unless you're asked to.
Yeah.
I'm pretty private with my religion for the most part, even though it's a huge part of me. I remember even when I was looking for, when I was out dating and, thinking about who I was going to marry, one of the requirements on my list was this person needed to be Catholic. And I married a Catholic. It was
Yeah.
very important to me where my sisters didn't really care about that. They didn't care, and that's okay. But for me, it always mattered. It always did. I really, truly, to be honest with you, really only dated Catholics. I remember like even being single and asking like, "What religion are you?" And it'd be Muslim or Baptist or Buddha or whatever. And I just knew long term that wasn't going to align with how I wanted to raise kids and how I wanted to be. So yeah, I think that there's a way to go about it. And to your point, my mentor had no clue. We're close. We talk every single day, but we've never talked about religion. He was
Yeah.
like, I had no idea you were actually religious. I'm like, yeah, I go to mass like literally almost every Sunday.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Well, and
I'm
again,
that
I
girl.
think that's a testimony, I think goes back to your meme, your great grandmother
Yeah.
is like, and my friend Danielle, who is a Catholic, and she always says this, she goes, does your walk talk louder than your talk? And it's like at the end of the day, like that is so important to me in everything that I do. Like religion, my faith, full stop is like once there's a Christian song that makes me cry every single time, and it's Colton Dixon, and it's let them see you in me, let them feel like me in that presence, and I cry every time because that's just like that's what I want. I want people to walk in and meet me, and they don't have to like I don't have any sort of insignia, a Jesus stamp. I don't have, you know what I mean? Like I don't often carry my Bible. I show up in bars and all these different places. Like I exist, but when someone's around me, I want them to feel the joy and the love of Christ because that's
Yeah.
just how I'm walking out. That's how you know, right? And then when you transfer that into business and someone's like, wow, look at all these great things. And it's like, well, it's not to say that Sarah's not working her ass off. It's just that she's also putting as much effort into her faith and into believing in what's possible as
Mhm.
she is about doing the things that take the boots on the ground.
That's
Right.
right.
And it's so important. I love that you talked about just like the marketing strategy and all the things that go with just being intentional about how you are praising and how you're loving God. And again, I think when you are, and it's really cool too, because when you meet different clients in your space or in my space and they share their faith, it gives you permission to go to a place with them,
Mhm.
intentionally. You may have clients that are employees that you're working with that are looking for jobs and they're believers, and they open up to you, and that gives you permission to go to that place, right? But
Yeah.
you are waiting for them to give you that
Yeah.
permission. And
Yeah.
and that's how it has been for me for clients as well. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not, that's okay. I'm still going to do me. And I will use all, I've had clients that don't believe, they have an idea. Maybe they were faithful at some point. I'll still advocate on their behalf. Like, I'll
Mhm.
still pray for their business and still harness the Holy Spirit and still make sure that I'm using all the goodness to benefit them, regardless of whether
Yeah.
they believe, right? That doesn't stop me from doing good with that.
Yep. Same with me. Like some of the most important people in my life are not, aligned with me from like the perspective of religion. But, I still pray for them too. Like I don't pray for them because I feel like they need it. Because they don't believe. You pray because I want them to be healthy and, good and taken care of. It's just more or less, for me to like do my own thing and looking out for them in my own way. So yeah, I think that there's a lot that you can do with it. You don't have to shove it down people's throats. People will feel it when they're around you. And you know this. You've met them. I've met tons of people where you can tell right away their energy is so good. You're like, this is just a good person. Like this
Yeah.
person is so good, and they make me feel so good being around them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I love that that's your intention. You want people to feel like that when they're around you. That's great.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of refinement too,
Yes, it
definitely.
does.
It takes, like, the fact that you're praying, you're not praying for what you desire. You're praying for what they desire.
Mhm.
And I think that that is such a part of prayer life that people don't recognize. They're like, "Oh, I want my daughter to marry a really wealthy man." Okay, well, mom, like, that's not what
Yeah,
that's
that's not
like
what you pray for,
that's not what you
actually.
pray for, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's health, it's wellness. When I pray for my sisters, I pray for their healing of their hearts. I don't care
that's
if they
right.
believe in God or not. I want them to have healing of their heart. I want them to have beautiful, flourishing relationships. I pray for their heart to be guarded in certain situations. I pray for friendships. I pray for the things, these tangible things in their life that have nothing to do with what they believe, because I know that God can act on their behalf. And I pray that eventually that they'll see that one day maybe they will see him. But that's to be honest, none of us have that kind of time and effort. And
Yeah.
I think if more people realize that like the more effort you're spending on trying to have somebody believe what you believe, regardless, like I say this often, like, you usually know somebody is vegan because they'll tell you they're vegan.
Yeah,
And so
immediately.
immediately, I'm vegan. My name is Brittany.
Yeah,
Like, you don't even get their first name, you just get that they're vegan.
literally, yeah.
And the same could be said for religion, right? And for beliefs. It's like you come in, it's like, oh, you know that you're a Christian. And the reality is you shouldn't know
Yeah,
until,
right.
because they should be walking in love and in kindness. And like we talked about, like, let your walk talk louder than your talk talk.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people, I think, that, well, that I know that follow you because of your perseverance, your grit, just who you are as a person. You're creating space for individuals to fight for their dreams. And it's honestly an honor to have just such a real conversation with you. And I'm excited for what listeners that you have in your life and your following, but also our listeners to get to hear from you of like, girl, like, this is real. This is it. Sarah is real. She's doing the thing, and she's somebody worthy of working with and following. And so there's a lot of people listening, and, they're doing it on their own. They have maybe a hustle mentality, which we could have a whole podcast on hustle versus perseverance. Hustle is not sustainable, perseverance is, but that neither here nor there. And they believe that it's up to them. Like, they have this mentality that it's up to me to make it happen. What advice would you share with someone who, is pushing towards their dreams and not sure of, how to ask God or the universe for help? And I'm prefacing this by saying that also someone is probably open to God in the universe, right? I'm not saying
Mhm.
this is someone that doesn't believe. So if you don't believe, then maybe just fast forward until lifestyle questions. But if you do believe and you're just not sure, like, what advice would you give to these individuals?
So typically, when you're first starting a business or going out or thinking about or considering going and starting a company, like you're scared. Like that's the natural feeling. Like you are scared to do it. You might not know how to do it, what steps to take, but it's about just taking the step. Nobody knows what they're doing. Like I don't know what I'm doing every single day, but I do it anyway, and like I do it with, knowing that I don't have anything to be scared about. God really has me. I'm in the palm of his hand. He created me. So at the end of the day, I'm doing what he set out for me to do. So to be scared, it wouldn't be the right. He wouldn't want me to be scared. I'm not supposed to be scared of anything. So for me, I really do lean into, that piece of it is that you might fail, get back up. It's not about that really. Failure is a part of success. You're going to fail. You're going to fail at a lot of things, but you're going to learn from those failures, hopefully, and be better and grow. But you have to be able to be open to the fact that, you sometimes don't have the answers. You sometimes don't know why your path is going in a different direction than what you had thought. But if there's an idea that is put in your head and that idea is to start a company, that is God who planted that idea in your head. You owe it to him to see it through. And, for me, I remind myself of that a lot because I am very entrepreneurial and I'm very ambitious and I've got tons of projects that I'm working on right now. And when I get lazy on those projects, I think about God put this idea in my head. If I do not do this, what's he going to think? Like, again, that's the Catholic in me. That's the fear of God. I want to be able to pursue these things and I want to do them kind of in his light and do the things that I'm supposed to do that I would have never thought of this on my own. So it's about being open to these ideas. If you have them in your head, somebody put them there for a reason, listen to them and go. And again, it's not about the failing piece. You'll fail, you'll get back up, you'll take off. But if you're always going to hold yourself back from doing something, when it's your time to cross over, what you didn't do, all the things you didn't do, that's where you're going to regret life. It's not the things you did that you regret at the end of the day, you did them. It's the things you never did that you're going to feel. So that's kind of my advice. Listen to that voice, listen to those ideas and pursue them with all that you've got. Don't worry about failing. You probably will fail, but you're going to succeed too over time.
Gosh, I love that. And I mean, there's so like, yes to all of that. And fear, again, it's not in God's vocabulary. Like he didn't, that's not for us. Like that's not what he designed for us. And so if it's fear, ask yourself why. Like whose voice is that? Is that
fear of rejection, fear of like, it's like, get over it. Don't be scared of anything.
Yeah. And again, like rejection, who was that? Was it your second grade teacher that told you that you were good enough to be in that play and you just happened to realize that you're 30 and you, that second grade teacher made an impact and said those things? I mean, we're all uncovering those voices that are telling us that we're not enough, but it's doing it anyway, right?
Yep.
It's the, gotta love Glenn Powell for all he's doing for our generation. And he was just at Twisters and he said this line and I just love it because I am someone that I also just made this up. I want to put it on a sticker, but I fear regret over fear itself. Okay. So I actually am more afraid of not leaning into my potential, not doing something I'm called to do than actually being afraid to do it. But then also he said in the movie, he's like just doing some dramatic, I don't know, some hellion kind of thing in the movie. And he's like, we're meant to ride our fears. And I just love that because I was like, wow, like fear doesn't go away, you guys. Like this is a broken world. We will always will have fear in us, but are you going to ride it to the end or are you just going to let it stop you? And to Sarah's point, she's riding it like through the failure and the up again, and then the failure and the up again. And then usually there's less downs, right? It's like, whoop, caught myself, right? But that took practice of falling and getting back up over and over
and over and over again. Yeah, you can stay down. Like I think a lot of people too, like they get punched in the face and they stay down. They stay down for too long. Yeah. It's really about how quick you get back up. You can sit in those feelings. I do too sometimes where I'm just like, gosh, like you just feel like crap. But again, goes back to the whole, if you don't like something in your life, change it. Like just keep going. Don't quit. Because it's always people always tend to quit when they're 3 feet from making it.
Yeah. And Mylette would be really proud. What you are thinking in your mind.
The power of one more.
Power of one more.
Yeah.
That's literally it. It's like one more step, one more decision.
Yep.
One more, mile at the gym. One more, like like if you knew what was on the other side, and I think Ed actually literally says this, like if you knew what was on the other side of that one more, you could do it. Right.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
would
like,
do it.
just do it. And even if you don't, I think as believers, we don't often see the direct result of a prayer or the direct result of being obedient to something, or, you may feel convicted or called to reach out to a friend, and you may not hear back from them months later. But that's not our job. Our job is to act, to cut the strings from the outcome and to move forward, and to trust that God is guiding us, that we're being obedient. And, even like you said, like that fearful sense, when I went sober, God, it's the only time God has ever actually spoken to me. I was in a beautiful prayer time. There was oak tree, light was shimmering, my Bible was open, and God said to me, "Is the life you long for worth drinking for?" And I said, "No." And that was it. It was like a Tupperware container lid closed on my life. And so when I act from a place of like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to let God down, but also who else is going to create what God can create in my life? So why would I take a chance on some social event or some glass of wine that's not going to give me what God can give me? And so it's this healthy sense of like, you are being obedient and following God because you know that his plan for you is ultimately better. And why would you let a human or an interaction or anything else derail that? Because you know they won't ever be able to meet what he is offering. And so that's just something I can relate to when you talked about like that healthy fear of like, well, there's nobody that's offered me better. So
That's right.
that's it.
Yeah,
Nobody's offered me
that's
better.
right.
Okay. So I have two lifestyle questions for you. And I'm excited because I've never been to Texas, which, I need to change that. I get it. But what is your favorite coffee shop in Houston? And like,
So
what's your go-to order?
I always go to Lucy. It's Luce, and I always get one of two drinks. I either get the iced Spanish latte, has 4 shots of espresso. It is like I had one today already because I go every single day. They always go, "Is it your normal?" Or an iced cream Americano. Lucy is the best. They opened one up. Like it's like 7 minutes from my house. I couldn't believe it. I like had to post all over Facebook for our neighborhood page. I'm like, Lucy is here. So best coffee ever. I will like die on a sword saying that.
I love that. That's what passion is, guys, is that you will die on the sword for Lucy Coffee. That's
I
awesome.
will. I
That's
love it.
awesome. And I love that it's 4 shop. Is there anything else that makes it Spanish? Like, is there a spice to it, or is there?
No, I don't know. It's just a super strong drink, and it's delicious. It's so easy to go down, and then you just ping, like you just it does what it's supposed to do. Yeah, I don't know. It's so
If
good. All
that's
their
not a
drinks are so
collaborative,
good.
I don't know what is. It's like you just having the drink and then the content of you being alert from it. Like
Yeah,
Lucy would benefit from
I
that.
love them.
One
I love
thousand
them.
percent. I love that. Yeah, I love hearing all the different places we have guests. I love hearing where their favorite coffee shops are because there's so many incredible places. And it's funny, when I was out visiting Utah several years ago, some of the best coffee I've had is out there. And the irony isn't lost on me that a state that is traditionally, in a religious sense, like not into addictive things, has some of the best coffee. Not lost on me.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that that's beautiful because there is something about community that comes together around coffee, and you can create memories and also just experiences, which is
yeah.
obviously what life is about. Okay, what is a restaurant in Houston that you can't live without?
So my husband and I have been back to this restaurant a bunch of times. It's called Maximo, and it's off Edlo and West U. So anyone that's from Houston knows exactly where I'm talking about. But it's Mexican food, but Mexican brought to like the best level ever. Um, it is so good. So we're huge Mexican food. We love Mexican food. And if you are here in Houston, Tex-Mex is really big here. We really do have the best Mexican food. But we were going to a chain called El Tiempo for probably like 12 years. We would go once a month. It's phenomenal. Well, it used to be phenomenal. For the last year, we just weren't feeling it anymore. I'm like, gosh, something's really changed with El Tiempo. We stumbled across Maximo, and Maximo is the best. It's like a hidden gem in a great part of town. So yeah, anyone from Houston, if you have not tried Maximo, it's so good. If you want to come here to Houston and you want good Mexican, Maximo's, go there. It's awesome.
So that's what I love about this podcast too, is these lifestyle segments and getting to share, because we are a global podcast. So getting people that listen to us in Australia or the UK and they're like, oh, I'm actually going to Texas for a work trip. Where do I go? Like, how cool is that? They can
Yeah.
stumble on this small business recommendation from someone that's been vetted, because Google can be overwhelming. We know that. So it's,
Oh, I know.
so it's
Yeah.
like, but like getting to hear about that. Yeah. And I will say, I love I love a good Mexican joint and like
Same.
just, yeah, gosh, like, and Mexican's always so good reheated. Like it's a tried and true. Like it's just,
So, yes. You can take leftovers home when you go to a Mexican restaurant and it
yeah.
tastes so good like hours later. I know. Like when I first moved here to Houston, we didn't have Mexican restaurants. Like I grew up in Haverhill,
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
no,
I can't even think of one. Taco Bell. Like I
I'm
don't
not,
know.
that is offensive.
That's all I can think of. I'm
Yeah,
like,
literally.
yuck, you
Yeah.
know? But when I moved here, Houston is a huge city, but we are really well known for the food that we have here. We really do have great food here, but hands down, Maximo's for Mexican. Yes, every single day I could eat there. It's so good.
Okay, so I have a fun question to ask you that's not even related, and I didn't tell you this, but do you know, I don't know if you feel this way, but for whatever reason, so if anybody knows the demographic of New England, it is not as diverse as other parts of the country. A lot of seafood traditionally in the cuisine. People do run on Dunkin' Donuts. If you do drink Dunkin's outside of New England, it doesn't taste the same. Don't question us. Just listen. We're telling you from authority that it's not the same. But for whatever reason, my favorite Chinese food restaurants are in New England, and I haven't been able to like get the same vibe. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, it's true. I'm not kidding. Like our
God.
Chinese food here, we never eat Chinese here. Like it's not the same. We're not ordering it. It's not. It is that much. It is so good. Haverhill, Massachusetts. Like shout out to every Chinese restaurant there because I've probably eaten there a bazillion times. It's just that's not like that. We don't have food like that here. No.
No, no. And everywhere I've gone to, and of course, I potentially I could have done more research in like, being in the DC area when I was there. But my sister and I talk about it often. Like, I knew the owner of a Chinese spot in Manchester, New Hampshire, and it was like like a lazy Susan experience. All the food in front of you, it was like incredible. And I'm just like, and this is Manchester, New Hampshire we're talking about. And then I come to all these amazing places that are known for really good cuisine, like the DC area, and I haven't found.
They don't even know what crab ragoon is. Like here, like they call them like cream puffs, and
Yeah.
they're not
Cheese
good.
wontons.
It's like they're not good. I'm like, you don't know. And even my husband would be like, because he's from New Orleans. He's like, "What's a crab ragoon?" I'm like, "You've never had a
It's like someone asking him what a beignet is. It's offensive. Okay?
literally." It's like, come on now. And it's funny because whenever we go home, like my husband does not like the seafood thing. He can't get down with haddock. I can get down with some haddock. We don't have that here in Texas. We don't get
No.
it. Haddock is so good. He says it's not seasoned enough. That's the whole point of it.
That's
Doesn't need
the
it,
point.
but it's
Haddock
so
is
good.
it's also a poor man's food. So it's like it doesn't cost a lot. You can fry it, especially if you're Catholic on Fridays during Lent.
Mhm.
Like it's supposed to go with what I grew up with, like
With
the fried
everything,
haddock,
yeah.
the mac and cheese, right? That you'd have it. And it's like, yeah, it goes with everything. It's not meant to be this one powerful tasting fish. No.
No, it's not. It's good like that. Every time I go home and visit my parents, if we go to a restaurant to eat, I will get haddock. So we don't have an opportunity here. It hardly is. It's not never here. We can't
No.
find it in the supermarkets here. No. So I go crazy. I don't care how haddock is cooked. I will eat some haddock every time I go home. I don't care. It's so good.
And I feel so seen and heard, just knowing that we aren't crazy. I'm going to go tell my sister after the show, like, hey, I talked to a fellow New Englander who literally had some of the best cuisine throughout her traveling and like cannot find Chinese food the way that it's done in New England. And it's so random. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all.
I think about that until you said it out loud. Like we never order because every time we order, we're like, that's not good. Like, this is for both of us? Yeah.
It's so disappointing, right?
That's
and
hilarious.
You do the metric check of like, okay, just like there's certain things in Mexican food, right? Like, let me try the guac, let me try the queso, what the chips are like, and then the rice and beans, right? Everything else, if those are good, the rest is going to be amazing.
Yep.
With Chinese, it's like, all right, let me get the crab ragoons. I want to try the egg rolls and usually maybe a spare rib option and the fried rice. Everything else will be great. But like, I don't know what it is. Like you said, crab ragoons don't even exist. There's not even a word. The egg rolls, hit or miss. We have a place here. There's nothing in the fried rice. It's just rice that's yellow.
Literally.
And I'm like, what happened to like tossing some like, low key stir fry veggies in there? Like your watercress chestnuts or whatever. Like, I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I never even thought of it, but yeah, like you're not wrong. We never order here because we don't like it. So
insane.
And I love Chinese food.
You've heard it here from the Brittany Wheeler Show that Houston, as well as in some parts of North Carolina and DC area, do not as good Chinese food as New England. That's it. We're not here to break your hearts. We're just here to speak truth.
That's right.
That's it. Sarah, where can people find you? I'd love for people to get connected. I'll put all the information in the show notes as well. But where can they follow you on all your platforms, as well as potentially work with you? If they are in the Houston area, I do know you serve a very niche audience, which is important. And I love that about you. Just give a quick snippet of where people can find you.
So we're on every platform. So you can follow me on LinkedIn under Sarah Englade. Our company page is also where we post a lot of our content on LinkedIn. But we're on Instagram. Our handle is Monarch Talent HTX. We're on TikTok, same handle. We're on YouTube, Monarch Talent Solutions. So we're really everywhere. And so what we do is we create content with a purpose to help and bring value to job seekers and to hiring managers to help navigate the market, because it's a tricky market. The market hasn't been a great job market for about 2 years now. So, any tips and tricks that we can offer out to help people, we're happy to do. So if you are in Houston, I do service just the accounting, finance, and HR space, and that senior to executive level, specifically in Houston, working in oil and gas and manufacturing. So we are very niche, but if you have that background or need some help, reach out.
Yeah, or people may know somebody, listen to this podcast. I just love that. You just never know who is listening to this. I recently just had a friend of mine who listened to the last episode that just came out, which based on this recording will have been months before, but she reached out, she goes, hey, so you mentioned on your podcast that you're really good at this thing. Could you help me out with this thing? And I was like, you just don't know. You don't even know what people are going to hear from what you're sharing. And so I love that somebody from, this show could potentially be a future client of yours, which is incredible.
Same.
I love that. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will put everything that you need to follow Sarah in the show notes. Follow us on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. Share this episode. It's going to be, I'm grateful. And I'm just so thankful, Sarah, for you taking the time today to get to be with me. And I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You guys, as always, do good things, make me proud, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.